You open the car door on a Thursday evening, everything looks the same. But the passenger seat is flat, neutral position, no lumbar curve, no heat setting. It used to adjust the moment the door opened. A saved profile, pulled from a paired device. That hasn't connected in 13 days. The car didn't delete the profile, it just stopped loading it. No notification, no prompt, no change log. The car didn't reset. It just stopped preparing for two people. You sit down and tap the navigation screen. Your usual suggestions look different. The daycare isn't pinned anymore. The weekend restaurant is gone. A grocery store you visited once last Tuesday is now listed as a frequent destination. You scroll through the list. Nothing you recognize from last month is still there. The system reorganized everything, quietly, like it was cleaning up after someone who left. The Bluetooth priority list shows one device. The call suggestion bar shows different names. The estimated drive time home changed. It wasn't traffic, it was you, arriving at a different time for 9 days straight. You didn't rearrange anything. You didn't clear anything. The system did it on its own, based on where you've been going, not where you used to go. And this is where it stops feeling like a coincidence. Because your car is not broken, it's adapting. Every connected vehicle built in the last 6 years runs a system called Telematics. It records every ignition start, every destination, every stop duration, every route deviation, but it goes further than that. It logs how long you idle in a parking lot. It timestamps the moment you shift into drive. It knows how quickly you accelerate away from an address, and whether you hesitated before pulling out. None of this requires a camera. None of this requires a microphone. Just motion, location, and time. 3 inputs. And from those 3 inputs, the system builds something that looks less like a driving log and more like a diary you never agreed to write. But here's what matters. It doesn't just log your commute. It builds a model. Not of your car, of you. Where you go on weekday mornings, where you are on Friday nights, how long you stay, how often the pattern holds. It maps the rhythm of your life without ever being asked to, and it remembers everything, even the things you'd rather forget. For weeks, nothing changed. Same mornings, same routes, same 2 phones connecting every day. And then one of them stopped. Evening arrivals drifted by 2 hours. A new address appeared in the pattern. Once, then twice, then regularly. Weekend routes split into 2 directions. The second seat stayed flat. The car didn't understand what happened, but the data changed shape, and the system doesn't need to understand. It only needs to detect. And this is where it gets difficult to ignore, because that data does not stay inside your vehicle. In 2023, reports showed a major automaker was quietly sharing detailed driving behavior with third-party data brokers. Not through a hack, not through a breach, through a checkbox, the one you tapped during first-time setup while the engine was still running and you just wanted the maps to work. That was consent. Not just for navigation, not just for crash detection, for behavioral data collection, for packaging, for distribution, and most people never go back to read what they agreed to. The terms are long, the font is small, and the car works either way, so there's no reason to question it, until there is. And this is where the system shows what it actually does. Your telematics profile doesn't just describe where you drive, it describes how stable your life looks. And that profile moves quietly into systems you never interact with directly. Insurance risk platforms pull telematics data to adjust pricing models in real time. A person whose routine fractures, whose schedule fragments, whose patterns stop aligning with household consistency, begins to look different to an algorithm. Not only your rate changes. No claim was filed, nothing was reported. No single document exists with your name on it. Just because your data stopped looking stable, your options narrow, your pre-approved offers shift, your loan terms adjust. And none of this waits for confirmation. None of this checks whether you actually made a decision. The data moved, the profile updated, and somewhere in a system you've never seen, a threshold was crossed. Before you've told a single person what's happening, before there's a filing, before there's a record, before there's even a decision, the system already responded to what the pattern suggests is about to happen. Most people move through this every single day and never question what's being recorded. But once you start noticing it, it becomes very hard to look away. That's what this channel is built for. Pulling back layers that aren't supposed to be visible. If you want to keep seeing what's underneath, subscribe, because this isn't the only system doing this. Also, if something in this felt familiar, like you've experienced it but never had the words for it, drop it in the comments, because chances are you're not the only one. And a thumb up does something most people don't think about. It tells the algorithm to push this in front of someone who's never questioned what their car already knows about them. That's how this spreads. Not through ads, but through people who noticed. Well, once you've noticed, it's worth going deeper, because there's a layer most people never reach. Imagine two parents in a custody hearing, both of them claiming to be reliable, consistent, present. One of them says they were home every night by 7. They say this under oath, and there's no reason to doubt it until the other side subpoenas the vehicle data. And the telematics log tells a different story, a different address, 4 nights a week, for 3 months straight. Arrival times that don't match, departure times that don't align, routes that never once passed by the child's school. On mornings, they claim to be doing drop-off. The parent didn't know any of this was being recorded. They didn't know their car was keeping count. And now, in a courtroom, a judge isn't listening to testimony anymore. They're reading a spreadsheet generated by a vehicle that remembers every trip more accurately than either parent ever could. And this isn't theoretical. Attorneys have already subpoenaed connected vehicle records in custody disputes to challenge statements about overnight locations, pickup times, and residential consistency. The car was never asked to testify, but the data speaks anyway. And it doesn't forget, and it doesn't exaggerate, and it doesn't take sides. It just tells the truth about where you were and when and for how long, and for how. Your car is not a witness, but its memory is available to anyone with a legal request or a data purchasing agreement. And unlike your phone, you can't factory reset what already left the vehicle. You can clear your browser, you can delete your messages, you can wipe your call history and start fresh. But the driving data that transmitted last Tuesday is already somewhere else, on a server you didn't choose, in a profile you didn't build, under terms you didn't read, already sorted or waiting. And this is where something shifts completely, because this was never really about divorce. Divorce is just the loudest disruption. The same system detects when someone starts driving to a medical center weekly, when a commute vanishes entirely, when a second address replaces the first without overlap. Job loss, illness, relocation, grief. The car doesn't know what any of it means, but the pattern changes shape. And that new shape enters a system that doesn't ask why, doesn't wait for context, doesn't request an explanation. It just adjusts what comes next. And right now, somewhere, it's adjusting for someone who hasn't even realized their life is changing yet. Someone who got in their car on a Thursday evening, same door, same wheel, same screen, but the passenger seat was flat. They thought it was a sensor, maybe a reset, maybe nothing. But the car had already noticed what they hadn't said out loud. It has nothing to do with intelligence. It just never stops recording. And somewhere, on a server, they will never access. Their pattern just changed shape. And a number they will never see. Just changed. And if this changed how you see the world around you, then you already know something most people don't. That the things you interact with every day are not as simple as they seem. Your car isn't just a car. Your route isn't just a route. Your pattern isn't just a habit, it's a signal, and someone is always reading it. And there's another system you interact with just as often, one that quietly decides what you see, what you miss, and what you believe is important. It runs every time you open your phone, every time you scroll, every time you choose what to watch next. And it's on your screen right now. Pick it, and I'll see you there.